He's the president and chief executive officer at RTI International. He took the helm in 2022. Give it up for Tim Gabel.
Well, thanks very much. It's a great pleasure to be with you tonight, and a great honor to kind of kick off this themed discussion around history. I'm pretty sure part of the reason they asked me to kick it off is not included in that intro is I came to RTI 42 years ago, and so I've seen the park change a great deal over that period of time, and so I want to talk a little bit about that tonight. As many of you know the origin story of RTP, but let me just give you a quick snapshot. 1950s, North Carolina experiencing a brain drain. If you weren't operating in tobacco, furniture, or textiles, you really didn't have an opportunity to use that great degree you were getting from Duke, NC State, or UNC Chapel Hill. On the picture on the left that you see here, Governor Luther Hodges was presenting during a press conference in 1957, talking about this concept of a research park, something that could really help keep talent at home and stimulate the economy of this region and this state. The middle photo that you see is the park that we're in today. All these buildings that you see was a big empty space of pinelands. And on the far right, your right, my left, what you see is RTI's first president, George Herbert, a gentleman that was recruited out of California, who was intended to be part of the architects of this park, became RTI's first president and CEO. What you see here is a reunion of some of the founding members of the business community, the academic community, the government community, that were the creators and the visionaries that thought about the park. How would we come together? Now, what do you see? You see a not very diverse group, for sure, I would say. You see one woman in the middle, you know, probably holding it all together. Her name was Elizabeth Aycock, and Elizabeth Aycock was one of the longest serving members of the park leadership. She played a critical role in the history of the park. But these gentlemen and women really were a set of people that came together to make the park possible. The far, your right, sitting down, is George Herbert at that point. So that young man that was standing in the field is George Herbert at that point. So you can tell it's some years on. But I want to read a quote. I actually wrote this down because I think it's very important. This book, let me go back here. The book that you see on the left, maybe I'll go back, maybe I won't. Some of you have been picking up this book tonight, I think. Dr. Link, Albert Link, wrote a 2-volume set of the history of RTP. And the title of this book is A Generosity of Spirit. And what happened in the origin story of the park is that a wide variety of people, many of whom had interests and organizations that had interests in their organizations being successful, came together. And one of the quotes out of this book, and I want to read this to you because it's important for us to think about in today's context, and that is, "So was built into the structure of the triangle the remarkable collaboration of state, business, and higher education that had created it. Extremely able individuals had come forward in a generation, in a generally unselfish manner for the good of the state." Generally unselfish manner for the good of the state. And that was what happened that created the space and the park that we're in today. And now you think about the park that we're in today, you think about all the amazing companies that are in this park today and the jobs that are in this region, the remarkable brand that this region has across the globe, and all of us that are here tonight, and the vision that those individuals had at that time. That origin story benefits all of us that are here today and the organizations that we're a part of. I want to go back in time just a little bit again and talk a little bit about that unselfishness. The woman that you see in this picture is a woman named Gertrude Cox. And Gertrude Cox, to many of us and many outside of this region, is known as the godmother of statistics. Gertrude Cox, back in the 50s, was a very well-known statistician at NC State University. And at the time the park was being created, there was a vision of creating an institute, a research institute. And that's what RTI, the Research Triangle Institute, was at the time. And the thought was there needed to be an anchor tenant to the park, and it needed to be a nonprofit research institute in order to persuade businesses that the research universities of the region were bought into this concept. And the dean of the Department of Agriculture at NC State persuaded one of his top faculty members and her whole team, that was Gertrude Cox, to lift up her program from NC State and bring it to this new research institute. Now, for those of you that have ever worked in an organization, for a leader of an organization to persuade one of their top rainmakers to move their program to another organization for the good of that new organization, for the good of the region, it's a very generous and unselfish act. But that's what happened, and that's what laid the foundation for the organization that I lead, the Research Triangle Institute, then RTI International now, that really created a foundation of statistics, of surveys, of data collection, data management that we still rely on now, almost 70 years later. So, yes, maybe not, there we go. RTI today, we've grown a lot. We were originally founded with a grant of $500,000 and 180 acres. Our campus is just right around the corner. We now are north of $1 billion in annual revenue. We have about 6,000 staff worldwide. We operate in 90 different countries. We have a vast variety of capabilities that we carry out work in. It's mostly applied research, more so than basic research. We do have laboratories that operate in medicinal chemistry and energy, and we operate in health and education in a variety of areas. But I guarantee you those visionaries that were creating the park at the time and were imagining a research institute at the time had no idea what this region would become and what our organization would become. What I would say to you is we are in the process of trying to create our future and imagine what our future will be. Go ahead and advance the slide for me if you would. There we go. Last year, what we did is we set upon a path to create for ourselves a North Star goal. RTI's mission is to improve the human condition by turning knowledge into practice. And that's a very bold mission. We live it, we breathe it every day. I guarantee you, you could ask any RTI employee what's our mission, they would be able to tell you. But what we decided we wanted to have is sort of a mile marker on that journey. And so we created the North Star goal that you see here. By 2030, RTI will positively impact the well-being of 1 billion people through science-based solutions in climate, education, health, and equity. And we're using that goal to coalesce all of our staff around a very aspirational, audacious target with a time-bound nature that's driving us forward. And it's part of what we believe is our mission to improve the human condition to have an impact in the world. And if you'd advance the slide one more time, what I want to do now is bring a little bit of a call to action to all of you. Because that's what we're doing as an organization, but I want to bring our attention to what's going on right here in our region right now. The RTP 3.0 efforts that are underway right now bring to us an opportunity to bring that same unselfishness, that same for the good of the region, for the good of the state attitude, and thinking long beyond where we are today. I think all of us, the organizations that are represented here, leaders of those organizations, members of the staff of those organizations that are in this room today, we all have the ability to reimagine what a successful research park can look like into the future. The state of North Carolina stands to benefit from that effort. the people in areas of our state that may not be as well off as we are here in the Triangle stand to benefit from that. And so my call to action to all of you is go back into your organizations. Imagine what those visionaries were thinking about in the 1950s. Put yourself in those shoes right now in 2024, almost 2025, and think about what can we do now? How can we be generally unselfish and try to bring that sort of passion and energy to the future, to the next generation and the next and the next. So thanks for your attention. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Tim, let me kick things off. What do you consider one of RTI's greatest achievements?
Oh gosh, we've been active in so many research areas. It's almost hard to pick one. I think some of the things we're most famous for, RTI engineers were behind the development of the technology that allows airlines to detect wind shear. So when you're safe flying in an airline and an airliner is able to detect wind shear, that's one. The technology behind cochlear implants was developed at RTI. That's another one. So that's just a couple of things, I would say.
Sarah Beth is looking for folks who have questions. Anyone have a question for Tim? Over here.
See one back here.
Hi, my name is Shauna Henry. I work at IBM and am aware of IBM's history in the Research Triangle Park. My question to you is, are there any RTI partnerships with IBM or other businesses or companies that have been longstanding as well? And I'm curious where RTI and IBM are relationally.
So I think the question was about partnerships and longstanding partnerships. We've had many partnerships, one of which has been with IBM. I don't think we have a current partnership with IBM, but in the early days of Watson, we established a partnership with IBM and really thought about how that advanced technology could be brought to bear in the kind of work that we do. And we did some early work with the Watson team right across the street. The IBM campus is right across the street. You know, one of the things about our North Star goal, I will tell you, and I say this to our staff all the time, is we know we can't reach 1 billion by ourselves. And we need to harness the power of partnership and the strengths of many organizations, not just here in the Triangle, but around the globe that we work with. And so that's a great question, and I appreciate the question.
We have one more question.
How will sustainability and solar panels and renewable energy play a role in RTP 3.0 that we see on this rendering?
I'm not sure I heard all that.
Sustainable energy play a role
In the region, do you think?
In the RTP 3.0 rendering that you show there on the screen.
Yeah, in the 3.0. Well, I know there's a lot of different ways to answer that question, and I know some of the Research Triangle Foundation staff are here that could probably speak better to that. I know there are transit plans underway thinking about that. You look at the residential that's here and thinking about, you know, part of the challenge we have in the Triangle gets to commute, gets to affordable housing, gets to some of those things, and I think the sustainability questions, the polarity of thinking about clean energy, commuting into the park, rail, transit, those kind of challenges. I know the RTP design process is trying to take all that into account. I will tell you, I'm not the urban design expert. Some of those people are here tonight, and I would encourage you to have some follow-up conversation with those folks.
Thank you, Tim, so much.
Okay,
Give it
thank
up.
you.